Deep in the heart of Texas, my ranch stretched across 200 acres of open land, a haven of rolling hills, grazing cattle, and the kind of quiet that makes you forget the world's chaos. I'd poured my life into this place, building it from a scrappy plot into a working operation with a sturdy iron gate at its entrance. That gate wasn't just a barrier. It was a promise to my livestock and myself that this land was ours, safe from outsiders. But then came Karen, the self-proclaimed queen of the nearby suburban HOA, a gated community a mile down the road with cookie-cutter houses and rules stricter than a military base. Karen decided my private road, cutting through the heart of my ranch, was her personal expressway to the highway. It started small, tire tracks in the gravel, my gate left swinging open, a few spooked cows wandering too close to the road. At first, I chalked it up to a lost driver or a one-time mistake. I put up a sign, clear and polite, private property. Please use main road. I even added a smiley face to keep it friendly. But the tracks kept appearing, deeper each time, and my cameras caught the culprit. A silver SUV gleaming under the Texas sun, speeding through like it owned the place. The driver was Karen, her face set in a permanent scowl, flipping off my sign as if it were a personal insult. I tried reasoning with her once, catching her mid-drive as she barreled through. "Ma'am, this is private property," I said, tipping my hat to keep things civil. "You're scaring my cattle and leaving my gate open." She barely glanced at me, just smirked and said, "This road's been here longer than you, cowboy. I'm not hurting anything." Then she gunned her engine, kicking up a cloud of dust that stung my eyes. That moment told me everything I needed to know. Karen wasn't just clueless. She was entitled, the kind of person who thought rules didn't apply to her. I spent nights fuming, checking my cameras to see her SUV tear through again and again, each time leaving my gate open and my livestock at risk. Fencing the entire property would have cost more than my truck, and padlocking the gate daily wasn't practical with my crew coming and going. I needed a solution that was legal, effective, and would hit Karen where it hurt most. Her pride. I started asking around town discreetly about this woman. Turns out she was notorious in her HOA, the kind of neighbor who'd fine you for a mailbox an inch too tall or a lawn not mowed to her exact standards. But my ranch wasn't her jurisdiction, and I wasn't about to let her treat it like her personal shortcut. I knew talking to her again was pointless. She'd made that clear with her smirk and her exhaust. So I decided to fight fire with fire, but smarter. I'd set a trap, one that would catch her off guard and make her regret ever crossing my gate. It had to be subtle, legal, and undeniable, something that would let her own arrogance do the work for me. I called up my buddy Jake, a welder with a knack for clever fixes, and we started brainstorming. We tossed around ideas. Spike strips were too aggressive, a locked gate too inconvenient for me. Then it hit me. A cattle guard. Not just any cattle guard, but a custom one designed to teach Karen a lesson she'd never forget. It was perfect, practical, legal, and just sneaky enough to make her think twice. Jake grinned when I explained the plan. "Let's make her wish she'd taken the long way," he said. And so we got to work, determined to protect my ranch and put Karen in her place. The idea of a cattle guard was nothing new out here. They're common on ranches, a grid of metal bars over a shallow pit that keeps cattle from crossing while letting vehicles pass. But for Karen, a standard cattle guard wouldn't do. She was too stubborn, too entitled to care about a few bars in the ground. I needed something that would catch her speeding SUV and make her pay attention without causing real damage. Jake and I spent a weekend in his shop, sketching out a custom design. We decided to widen the gaps between the bars, just enough to trap the wheels of a low-riding vehicle like hers if she didn't crawl over it at a snail's pace. It wouldn't flip her car or break anything, but it would high-center her, leaving her stuck until she called for help. "It's like a speed bump with teeth," Jake said, chuckling as he welded the bars. To make it even better, we added a pressure sensor under the guard, wired to a piercing alarm and a spotlight that would light up the night if anything heavier than a cow crossed it. The setup was designed to make her feel like she'd walked into a trap she couldn't argue her way out of. We tested it with my truck, driving slow to ensure it was safe, then speeding up to confirm it would catch a reckless driver. Sure enough, at anything over 10 miles an hour, The wheels slipped into the gaps, jolting the vehicle and forcing a stop. It was perfect. I added a new sign, bold and impossible to miss. Caution. Cattle guard ahead. Slow down. No trespassing. I knew Karen wouldn't read it. She'd ignored every sign before, but it covered me legally. If she got stuck, it was her fault, plain and simple. To spread the word without tipping her off, I mentioned at the local feed store that I'd upgraded my security because of vandals leaving my gate open. Gossip travels faster than a wildfire in a small town, and I figured someone in her HOA would mention it. But Karen, with her nose in the air, would probably dismiss it as beneath her. That was exactly what I was banking on. Her arrogance was the key to the trap. While we worked, I kept checking my cameras, watching her SUV tear through my property like clockwork, each time leaving my gate open and my cattle rattled. It fueled my resolve. Jake and I finished the cattle guard in a few days, burying it flush with the ground and hiding the sensor's control box in a shed nearby. We added a second camera, angled to catch every detail of the cattle guard, so I'd have video proof if Karen tried to spin a story. I wasn't taking any chances. By the time we were done, I felt like a chess player setting up a checkmate. Karen had no idea what was coming, and that was the best part. I went to bed each night picturing her SUV stuck, her smug face replaced with panic. All I had to do was wait for her to take the bait. 3 nights later, it happened. I was in my barn mucking stalls when the alarm ripped through the quiet. A wail loud enough to wake the dead. The spotlight kicked on, bathing the front of my property in blinding white light. I knew it was her. My heart pounded, not from nerves but from the thrill of knowing the trap had worked. I grabbed my flashlight and a thermos of coffee, figuring this might take a while, and headed to the gate. There was Karen's SUV, front wheels wedged deep in the cattle guard, its undercarriage scraping the bars. The vehicle was stuck, unable to move forward or back, high-centered like a turtle on its back. The alarm was deafening, and the spotlight pinned her in place. She was slamming her horn, yelling out her window, "Turn this off! You're gonna pay for this!" I took my time walking up, letting her stew in her own mess. When I got close, I saw her face, red with rage, her manicured nails gripping the steering wheel like a lifeline. "Ma'am," I said, calm as could be, "I warned you this was private property. You drove right past my signs." She exploded, calling it vandalism, threatening to call the police, her lawyer, even her HOA board. I just leaned against the fence, sipping my coffee, and let her rant. "Go ahead and call," I said. "I've got cameras showing you trespassing, ignoring my signs, and leaving my gate open for weeks. You're lucky I don't press charges right now." That gave her pause, but only for a moment. She kept yelling, demanding I free her car, but I wasn't budging. I told her I'd call a tow truck, but out here, it could take an hour or more. Her eyes widened. She hadn't counted on being stranded in the middle of nowhere with an alarm blaring and a spotlight making her the star of the show. While we waited, I mentioned the footage I had of her flipping off my signs and speeding through my property. Her face went pale, and for the first time, I saw her confidence crack. "You can't prove anything," she stammered, but it was weak. I didn't argue. I didn't need to. The tow truck arrived after about an hour, driven by Old Man Harris, who gave me a sly nod as he hooked up her SUV. Karen had to pay $200 cash for the tow, and her car came out with a few scratches on the undercarriage, nothing major, but enough to make her wince. Before she left, I handed her a printed copy of Texas trespassing laws, highlighted for emphasis. "Next time," I said, "I won't be so neighborly." She didn't say a word, just climbed into her car and drove off, the tow truck trailing behind. I watched her tail lights fade, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. The trap had worked, and Karen had learned her lesson the hard way. The next morning, the story was all over town. By the time I got to the diner for my coffee, folks were chuckling about the HOA lady who got stuck in a cow trap. Someone from her gated community must have heard, because the gossip spread to her HOA like wildfire. Karen had spent years terrorizing her neighbors, fining them for every little thing. A mailbox the wrong shade of beige, a kid's toy left in a driveway. Now, she was the one humiliated. I heard she tried to spin the story at an HOA meeting, claiming I'd booby-trapped her car